Hello everyone, this time on RIBBIT SMP. What are you doing? Why are you here? The man's voice was shaking in fear, but on his slow steps followed closer. Why aren't you saying anything? A tall figure stepped inside the room. Face was hiding behind a mask. Am I making you nervous? As he stepped inside, he closed the door behind him and stared at the man in front of him. My story is no tale, as a dead man can never tell one, but I think I can give you what you want, dear traveler. His hand brushed away the messy hair from the man's pale face. He was horrified, as the tall figure stepped in closer, revealing his face that was hidden under a sad mask. It was the face of someone who never had a piece of humanity in himself. Bright maroon eyes hid no mercy, and his mouth was hiding away a malicious smile. Listen carefully, traveler. It all started back then in the great Aurora. Children running around, singing and dancing in a small circle. One child had a single horn, another one had deer antlers. Next child had gills and scales all over their body. Following was a child whose body was made out of porcelain and joints were connected by small balls. And then there was a child with a veil hiding his face. Once they stopped, their hand was on each other's hearts. I am the fate which shall have no mercy on those who disrespect the actions of creation. I, the goddess of luck, shall determine your fate with my dice, spoke the first one, their horn aiming high as their statement. For which I stand still, like my heart full of acceptance and harmony. I, Terra, the goddess of earth, will shape mountains tops to show you your righteous path, the child with antlers said, with nothing but kindness in their voice. Life is the palm of my hand, as all the rivers, ponds, and oceans are. Justice is what I prevail, and truth is what I speak. Eliza is my name. Their scales were shining in the sun, and their words were clear. Another child couldn't do anything but let out a small laugh. I, Flo, the goddess of wind, will spread your seeds all over the world. With my playful winds, I shall test your patience and help you find your inner strength. The doll child was pale as porcelain which they were made out of, looking like painting that laughed, danced and talked. And as for last, there stood a boy with a light veil covering his face. I stand for fire and destruction, maintaining the line between life and death. I created the nether realm, to which I banish all those who have wronged fate and justice. I dared to steal myself away along with those I punished, to guard the line between so-called life and death. I am Lilith, goddess of Inferno. As serious as the kids were during their little speech, they soon burst out into laughter, mimicking each other's lines, words, and movements. Eileen, Hero, Syrah, and Nenelt. From what I remember, you four should return to the orphanage, and you. It was an older girl, her face covered by similar veil. She was taller than the other kids. We will meet again soon, Mask, Eileen said, with their voice loud and full of laughter. The named kids ran towards the place of the orphanage. Sister, why do I not have a name? She crouched down to him, softly messing up his hair. It was getting long again. Because having a name in an orphanage means you lose your freedom. And that's why you have to remain nameless and under the wings of the orphanage. As long as you have goddess protecting us, we'll be alright. His sister, she was all he had, apart from his friends. She was a beautiful dancer and her heart was made out of gold. One day, I want to be a dancer like you. These words were what started his small journey. Year by year, he grew better, not only in martial arts but also dancing. One day, getting an invitation from the royal palace of the great Aurora. He has never been to the palace. He rushed to show his sister. Kriya, look! I got an invitation from the palace! He was an adult already, his hair was longer than it used to be. Time did its own justice. And not only to him, but everyone around him. When she saw him, she smiled proudly. The palace! You are an amazing little one. Her voice was so soft, as it always has been back then. It was one of the few things that has never changed. I'm not a little anymore, Kriya. He was still shorter than her, but he wasn't a child anymore. He was around his 20s. To me, you will always be my little one. When are you leaving? She asked. She was proud of him, seeing him slowly reach his dream. He always wanted to live freely, just like the legend of the Blue Phoenix. Tomorrow before sunrise. It didn't take long, and soon the sunrise came, as he was already on the way in one of the carriages that was assigned to pick him up. It was a true honor to dance in front of their highnesses, the great King Vidar and his queen Ilaria. The place was beautiful, and the gates were full of visitors from different places, from different ranks, different lives. He had a chance to even see inside of the castle where he stayed. He heard children of the royal families run around in the hallways, so he couldn't help but peek out. They looked so happy. Secretly he was envious of their lives, as they were given everything on a silver plate without having to work for it. Having a place to call home, parents to call their ones. The ones and only they can trust. And also the ones who will tell them bedtime stories and hold them when they cry. And to call them names they go by. Sapphire Perfumer, the king and queen are waiting. A guard came up to him, without him even noticing. He nodded, and since he didn't wish to speak, he just went. The king was on the throne, with the queen by his side. He kneeled down to show his respect. Stand up, Sapphire Performer. As you may be the guest here, no one should kneel in the place of peace. The King Vidar was known to be kind-hearted, and it was true. The masked man waved at the girls with instruments, and so they started playing. The boy was an ordinary dancer who grew up learning from his sister, but his moves were smooth and graceful. His dance was telling a story, the story of the Sapphire Phoenix. Once in hundreds of years, it is rumored to be able to see the Sapphire Phoenix. It's not just an ordinary phoenix, of course. This phoenix was the one who was leading the lost sailors during the night when the skies was filled with storms. It gave hope to those whose crops withered over the winter, and gave courage to those who were strong enough to dream. It meant freedom from all that has been bound down to serve to nothing but eternal suffering, she said, and smiled upon her little ones fall asleep. A little girl and a boy, laying in small beds, babies who were her miracles. May fate have mercy on you both, children of the future. His smooth moves were elegant self. Danced across the throne room, the silk was complementing his body, and looked almost as wings of the one Sapphire Phoenix itself. Such freedom in those movements, and the music, as it followed and the atmosphere was sweet and peaceful. It was interrupted by a guard running in. Your Highness, pardon me interrupting, we're under attack! He screamed, which caused nothing but panic in everyone. Inside the room, it was starting to fill up with noise, with loud arguments and cries, and everyone was trying to leave. The boy fled through the window, as he was already skilled enough to sneak out of buildings. His movements were no longer smooth, as harsh as his breathing that was following the sound of bells from a nearby church. He ran to the side of the forest that was around the castle, until he felt burning cold pain in his chest. It was so sudden, and it pushed him to the ground. He couldn't breathe. It was painful. He was lying on his back in the grass and reached to the wound with his hand, only to feel nothing. He tried to reach deeper, but ended up getting cut. His hand was bleeding. He had a hole in his chest surrounded by crystals. His spine was all that was left, apart from a heart that was no longer beating. It was almost poetic, how beautifully it all was, covered in purplish crystals. But he was no longer breathing. Suddenly it started raining, almost as if the skies were crying at the sight of the performer.
Well, 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 what do we have here? A soul desperate for life, yet already dead.
A person in cloak found the man in the grass. Their voice sounded almost emotionless.
Do you really wish to stay like this?
Small drops of rain mixed with the one single tear. He wanted to live. This wasn't his end. I want to live, he said and coughed. It hurt like hell itself was burning inside his throat. That person reached out their hand and held it above their body.
Your name is Cassian. Your hollowness of an abomination. Your hollow core and cold heart without a beat is proof that you're meant to not feel and only crave.
These words were the last thing he heard and saw before slowly passing out in the grass. The person he once was fell into a deep sleep, and his place was taken by someone cold and simply different. His snow-white hair was no longer the way it used to be. Instead, it was violet purple, just like the shards of the crystals in his chest. He felt no more pain, no sorrow, no nothing. Now, dear traveler, you heard everything, and I cannot say anything else other than a small recommendation to speak, because this unalived body doesn't feel, it doesn't feel anything. I have nothing to lose, unlike you. So speak while you still can, because screaming to God that won't hear you is only pointless. He only craved to know. He needed to know. It was his fate and his last bit of determination. Most of his time he was spending in the archives. He remembers what the person told him. Once your heart will regain its beat, you will truly be alive again. He didn't believe it though. How can a cold person without feeling anything be alive? But even if it was truly that way, fate will always find its way to punish those who dared to oppose the ones from above.